Have you ever held on to a story that was true, but was actually causing you to suffer inside? Maybe someone betrayed you, maybe you were wronged, maybe you were hurt, and you kept replaying the story in your head over and over.
It's like the more you replay it, the more you rehearse it, the more bitter you get, the more resentful you feel, almost like unable to see the good around you, unable to enter the joy around you. Now, if you've ever been there, and I think if we're honest, we've all been there, then today's wisdom from Jesus and the ancient scriptures has something important to say to all of us.
So, if you've been following along, you know we've been spending 4 weeks looking at the famous story Jesus told in Luke 15, often referred to as the parable of the prodigal son. And we've already seen both how the younger son and the older son are lost. One is lost in rebellion, the other is lost in religion.
Today, we're going to talk about the Father in this story. So, through the Father, Jesus is showing us what God is like. The Father in the story really represents God. And in a way, Jesus is saying, this is God. This is who God is. And this is what God is like.
Yes. So, the father in the story is a father who is forgiving, restoring, shamelessly running towards both lost sons, pursuing their hearts in love. And Jesus contrasts the father's behavior with the son's behaviors. So through the Father, Jesus is showing us what God is like and inviting us to be like him. Jesus is inviting you and I to be like the Father in this story.
And the Father in the story is prodigal in the sense that he's recklessly spendthrift, spending all he has. That's the definition of prodigal. But he's not spending it on selfish motives. He's spending it on his sons. What does the Father want? He wants relationship. He wants to be a family. He wants to be side by side, sharing meals together, being loved and loving his sons.
But this is not just a people-pleasing, codependent father. How does this father pursue his sons? By giving the sons what they want. He gives them freedom. You know, the younger son possibly asked for his inheritance early. Dad, I want your stuff, but I don't want you.
Yeah, that's right. And the more shocking thing for the son to ask is for the father to say yes to these things. Like he's selling off 1/3 of the family estate, just giving it away to the younger son.
And then when the son comes back, you know, the natural response of the father might be to lecture or to scold or to punish. You know, this is what the son expected. But instead of rejection, instead of being punished, this father runs, welcomes him, restores him, throws a party. And this is shocking because God is not like us. This is what God is like, lavishly spendthrift with love, forgiveness, and restoration.
Now, the younger son, in a way, we get a happy ending with him because he comes to his senses, he returns home, the father gets what he wants, his son is back. But then with the older son, we talked about how the story just stops. The father goes out, pleads with the older son to come into the party, and then Jesus just ends the parable. No resolution. We don't know what happens.
And why? I think it's because Jesus is leaving the story open for us. We get to finish this story with our lives.
So, what will it take for the older brother to enter into this party? What will it take for you and I to let go of past wrongs, past hurts? Probably one word: forgiveness. You know, to stop rehearsing the hurt, to let go of the anger, to become like the father in this story. Easier said than done, right?
Yes. So if you imagine the father, you know, night after night sitting on his porch, and at first, after the son leaves, you know, there's this anger toward his younger son. But as time passes, a new feeling comes: concern, simply wondering how is he doing. And then love starts to grow, and a desire to want to see his son. So when that son does come walking down the driveway, the father is ready and runs to him.
But the older brother hasn't gone through that forgiveness process yet. He's still brewing in anger, rehearsing the injustice of it all. He still wants retribution. He wants the father to make the younger son pay back all he owes. So for him to go inside to the party, he will have to forgive.
Yeah, because here's the truth. Jesus is inviting us to be like the Father, recklessly spendthrift in forgiveness and restoration.
It's quite a picture because the one here in this story who is hurt most by the elder brother's protest isn't really the father or the younger brother. It's really hurting the elder brother himself the most. His rehearsing of this story is keeping him stuck. He's outside the party, and his rehearsing of this version of the story is keeping him stuck. in suffering on the inside of himself, while the others are gathered at the feast of salvation with this loving Father.
There's an old book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie, and in it she talks about how we stay stuck in suffering by rehearsing the story of our hurt. The event is over, but when we replay it, we relive the pain again and again.
The idea here is that it's not the events or the other people that cause emotional pain and distress the most, but it's our thinking about those events over and over, that we hold on to certain beliefs or stories. When we say to ourselves, like, this shouldn't have happened, they wronged me, life is unfair, what we're doing is we're prolonging suffering for ourselves. Maybe that suffering did actually occur in the past, but now in the present, it's our thinking about it over and over that keeps us stuck in the pain of the past. And this is where the teachings of Jesus and just spiritual practices in general, things like self-examination and prayer and confession, contrition, forgiveness, allow you and I to examine these stories and thoughts that we hold and actually change our relationship with them, that we can alleviate pain and distress in our lives when we allow God to actually heal us from this suffering.
And this is the invitation of Jesus. Let go of your pride and having done everything right. Stop rehearsing the hurt. Release the anger you're holding. Forgive, restore, and surrender to a greater love than yours. And now come into the party.
Because this is what God is like. He's lavish and reckless and open-hearted. And Jesus leaves us with this question: will we step into the party? Because doing so is going to mean laying down our well-worn stories that our egos cling to and rehearse. But on the other side is freedom and joy and this invitation into rest and wholeness. And when we accept that invitation, we begin to look more like the Father.
So the last words Jesus tells in this story are the Father's plea to come into the party. And the older brother is standing outside, and we're waiting for what he does next. And we don't find out, because now we get to finish this story with our own lives. And what will you choose?